welcome to the Triple CI Church, and we love you so much. Don't forget to share and copy the link as much as you can. So today, joining us are two renowned entrepreneurs, and we are so happy to have them in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, before we even give you their names, can you just give them a round of applause, a large one and a large shout? So joining us today for the first presentation is going to be Mr. Blessmore Gwinjere, who is a prominent decision maker in the digital financial services space. Blessmore is a leader with regional and international experience. For over a decade, he has operated successfully in the banking and fintech sector as business manager, including Cassava Smartech, and covering the rest of Africa, where he worked with dynamic teams from diverse cultural backgrounds in different markets, spanning from Southern to Western Africa. Underpinning his strong passion for innovation, his desire to bring inclusive solutions to experiment and disrupt the status quo. Key elements are also rejected through playing a leading role in Old Mutual Fintech business, Sasai Project, Sasai Fintech, digital microcredit platform Stewart Bank, value-added services, corporate finance, and treasury management at CPZ. With passion for innovation, he strives to push the boundaries of what's possible in the digital economy and small business growth. If you want to talk about digital transformation, business growth, creative thinking, and operational leadership as well, he would love to talk about it, and that's why we have him in the house. He is also passionate about changing and impacting lives. For those who play golf, this is one man you should talk to after this service, because guarantee you, he's one of the best golfers around Zimbabwe. We can even say that. Okay, so let's just say he's better at digital than he is at golf. So ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Blessmore Gwinjere in the house, as he's joining us to give us the first presentation, and then we'll have a panel talk afterward. And one more interesting stuff I just received from the ladies, he's a sardop of the church. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We may take our seats. Allow me to, first of all, acknowledge the presence of our church leadership. I know some of them are not here. Our provincial overseer in absentia, our local pastor, and our regional pastors who are not here with us. Allow me to also acknowledge the presence of our speakers, Baba and Amai Ruizi. Of course, I introduced myself to him today, but he's one of the people that I grew up talking about. He inspires me a lot. I always listen to his preachings. Baba, I'm humbled to be standing right in front of you. To those who know my young brother, we always laugh Kumbati Chiti. He looks exactly like my young brother. Now see, Baba Shate is now a pastor. Mamudai Tisnakudaro, Angadai Trukuviringoma Sivia, Nengaripanapa. Allow me to also acknowledge the presence of my wife, Dr. Audrey. Thank you very much for coming with me. Also, allow me to acknowledge the presence of my brother, Brother Victor, who is also going to be part of this wonderful presentation. It's so exciting that in some forums that I speak, for some reason we accidentally meet. Last time we were at SADOP International. We were presenting on business, and today we are here at Triple CI. So I'm going to structure today's conversation into three. When the organizing committee of this conference called me, I think sometime 2 weeks or a week ago, they told me that we need a presentation on business, which is quite a very wide and a very big topic talk about. But I then thought that, should I do a deep research about business? If I'm going to do that, we have got a number of people who are here. Some are still in Form 3. Some have got 6 master's degrees. At the end of the day, I might lose the one are in Form 4. Because you are my brothers, I'm going to start off with a testimony of where I started, and I think along the journey, we'll be picking a few lessons from there, and where I am today to be driving some of the biggest businesses in Zimbabwe and part of Africa. Apart from that, of course, it will be on the professional space, but I understand that we are operating in a VUCA environment. It's volatile, ambiguity, you don't really understand what tomorrow is going to be like. Kune mamwe atinoti hustlers in the house. We need to make sure we also cover that space. I'm a young man raised from a very humble family of about 4 children, and I'm the firstborn. I'm raised from a church or a Christian-led background. Both of my parents are pastors in Zayoja. I learned at about 7 different primary schools. Yeah, you won't understand it. 7 different primary schools. Not because vabereki vainakidzwa nekuti move from one place to another, but because of the sacrifice and the passion that they have in the work of God. I then moved on to my Form 1 to Form 6, and it was that time when I realized what I wanted to do in life. One day I was seated in church and some children started to laugh at my parents, at my dad specifically. He was preaching in English, vachityora chirungu. And the laughter yakaitika ipapo, it changed my life. I told myself that I need to go an extra mile more than what my parents did. I created a clear vision of what I wanted to do. And when I looked at that, I remember I was one of the hardest workers at school, reading from around 6 p.m. all the way to around 2 a.m. That used to be my daily bread. My parents used to feel for me so many times, but I used to tell them that one day I must be speaking in English. One day my young brothers must be speaking in English. I need to take care of them. And then I started to realize my passion around business, right? Some teachers used to tell me that, your grades at college, they are so good, you need to be a science student. I tried that, but I failed. Allow me to acknowledge the presence of our Bishop Mpanduke. Thank you. From there, I then moved to college. I remember I then met one of the bank executives at AFC Bank, who is now one of the leaders at Maborane district, who is called Babam Davano. I went to him, I told him that I want to be a banker just like you. And he said, let's look at the qualification. What are you doing at school? I said, I want to do a BCom honors degree in finance. He said, no, you're good to go. That's one of the best decisions that you have made. At college, I think I was one of the best students as well. Not because of my intelligence, but because of hard working. The reason why I'm telling this story is that I also cover some of the young people who are still at school in this house. It won't be fair to speak about business, about digital transformation, to someone who is still in Form 3. So I didn't achieve this just by going to school and listening to speakers, to teachers. It was a painful journey. Most of the times when I tell my wife how I used to read, you start laughing. Yesterday, I even arrived home. What time? It was 2 a.m. She was angry at me. I was at work. You might not understand that. So, from college, I think I then finished off. I did my master's in degree in finance. I then spoke to my parents that I want to proceed with education. And what they told me was, you need to start to go to work. But my vision was to create my own company. And I thought that I wasn't educated enough to be there. But what I ended up doing, I remember that was in 2016, 2017. When the government of Zimbabwe introduced Command Agriculture. I went there as a young person. I met one of the ministers in Gutu there, and my parents, they were overseers that side. The minister saw the passion that was in me. I think you're understanding this journey so that we start to pick some lessons from there as we go. He understood the passion that was in me. And he said, it's very rare for a young person to say he wants to do agriculture. So what do you have? I said, I've got a car that my parents was using. They sold it, and then they gave me about 1,000 to start a business. Because I used to nudge them that I want to start a business. So here is what happened. They were then transferred back in Harare, and then I found a farm in Chegutu, 10 kilometers from Chegutu, about 10 hectares. Ndikari Machibage. I went there with one of, we live, you know Sadop. Tikangona kuti ereda vari padhuze namudhara tinovashandisa. So takaenda tikati elder, I want to be a farmer. So he used to go with me at that farm. He used to be a domain. And I managed Kurima in Chegutu, about 10 hectares. And during that period, I think into 2017, 2018, somewhere there, it was a bit of some drought. But surprisingly, I don't know what happened. I was one of the best farmers that side. As a young person, not yet married. Why? Because I had a vision. It started when I was a young person. And the beauty about this conversation we are having today is that I've got young people that are in the house, and I'm happy that it's not yet too late to start making a decision, because someone has come to speak to you today so that we can change your life at this stage. Some of the people, they're actually struggling. They are now old. It's difficult to change some of the decisions that they've made when they were still young. And that's the reason why you are in Zayoja. Regayavati Zayoja, Musha. From there, I was recruited by CBZ Bank. I met one of their agri-yield managers. I was there in Chegutu. He gave me a job. I worked there for about a year. And surprisingly, the CEO during that time, he liked me because I used to ask a lot of questions because I was so passionate about what I wanted to do. I spent almost a year there, and then I moved on to Stewart Bank. I started off as a clerk. I think I was getting about $150, if not $200. And I was staying in Chitungwiza. Maria Pereira Ku Transport. Handina side hustle. I'm trying to introduce the professional world and the side hustle. We are getting there. So I then started, remember I had a background in agriculture. I then started going to my rural areas, buying maize, and then selling to GMB. So what I used to do is I would wake up in the morning, about 4 a.m., drive to Marondera, and then just go and check with my guys. 8 o'clock, my clothes, they used to be in one of the offices at Stewart Bank. 8 o'clock, I'm there, I'm changing, ndapinda suit, pandavakumunda maxen. Not to say when I was there, I was just sacrificing my professional space. I used to perform like no man's business. Up until a point when I was identified by then the CEO was Dr. Lance. He said, I want you to go through a management, graduate management program. I said, I'm happy to do that. I went through the graduate management program, and I managed to be appointed after the program. I think it was 1.5 years to be appointed a corporate investment manager under the CIB department. But remember, my passion then changed during that period. I then started to see a lot of opportunities around the digital space. You remember during that period, that bank, it was one of the biggest banks in terms of customer base because of some of the innovative digital products that we were doing during those periods. So I started to lead the digital microcredit solutions, and I was appointed one of the youngest managers within Stewart Bank. We then started another project because Dr. Strive was so passionate about Africa. He said, I want young people to start to work on a Pan-African program, which was called Sasai. An African super app. Those who have visited China, you know there is WeChat. Because most people, they were afraid to start that project because if it fails, it means they will lose their jobs. I said, I want to start that project. I started that project with now the CEO of First Capital Bank. He's called Mtapera Mshoriwa. He's also my mentor. When we started that project, we were about 4 people. Within a space of 7 months, that business started to grow. And we registered close to 3.5 million customers across Africa. The shareholder was impressed. And that young boy who learned at 7 different schools, his name started to pop up at high level. Blessmore Gwenjere. When they organize meetings, they'll say, where is Blessmore? Because whenever I used to speak with passion about everything that I was doing. We moved, I think we started as 3 or 4 people, but as time goes on, the business grew, and it had a staff complement of more than 150 people. And I was given the responsibility to look after innovation and strategy for the rest of Africa, including the OPCO markets, working hand in glove with the COO. I worked there for a couple of years, and then I left. I went to Old Mutual. That's where I am right now. And I'm the manager for payments and e-commerce for the group, mainly focusing on the Omari project. I don't know if you've heard about Omari. In Zimbabwe, we've got EcoCash, One Money. Now there's Omari launched by Old Mutual. Let me tell you this thing. Out of passion, we started that business from scratch, 0, to where it is right now. It's one of the biggest business that we are seeing coming up in the African continent. Remember, the group is scattered across Africa. Strategically, what that means is this is where the project is going. You might be asking, why is he telling us this story? It's difficult when you're given a topic about business, because I can start to talk about digital transformation. It's part of business. I can start to talk about custom. It's part of business. I want to come to you today, CCCI. You are wherever you are. You are doing something. When I was so young, I started off with what I call a vision. A vision comes to an individual. It also comes to a corporate. It also comes to a state. What is a vision? Some they define it as a clear mental picture of what you want to do. Might be at an individual level, organizational level, or state level. You need to have a clear mental picture of what you want to do. There is a statement that I like because I love reading books by Stephen Covey. It says, to begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means to know where you are going so that you better understand where you are now. And so that the steps you take are always strategically aligned. The first step, if you're running a side hustle, if you are in a professional space, you need to have a clear mental picture of what you want to do. You might be in the corporate space and you are a clerk and your role is to input data in computer every day. One of the jobs that most people don't really like, but that's where we started. There's someone who is seeing you and seeing the passion that you have. So long you have got a vision to do that in the business space and you have got a clear mental picture of what you want to do, you will reach the promised land. Number 2, when I was speaking about the story of my life, I spoke strongly on passion and preparation. I like a statement that I was told by one of my mentors, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and I captured his words, and I always read these. He says, if you are going to run a business, Blessmore, you need to be an expert. An expert is really just someone who is trusted enough to lead something. To be trusted enough to lead others and to lead innovation requires your ability, the results that you produce, the confidence, and your passion. If you are not an expert or a passion, no one wants to listen to you. Yeah, no one wants to listen to you. Unogona from 0, right? But I've got 6 people that I'm mentoring. Irima, but the way they call me, but at the end of the day, I start to see the passion that they have. And today I've started to allocate some of my time to say, on a daily basis, at least 1 hour should be allocated to mentoring these young people because they've demonstrated passion. Right? One of them called me and he said, I was reading in the newspaper and there's shortage of cement. I said, young man, so what do you want to do? Do you want to open a plant here, cement? And he said, no, I want to import cement. I was speaking to my brother in Zambia. He said cement is hovering at around $5 or so. I helped him through some of the partnership and relationship that I had. I helped him and I connected him to one of the guys that was processing my licenses as cement. He did his first execution. I got no microfinance, banotora mari, banotora cement from Zambia. Cement yakano perera muchinhoyum. As we are speaking, he is now expanding his business from cement to also focusing on the meat business. But here is how it started. Passion and aggression. Most of the time when you demonstrate that, even myself, I always want to repent. This young man, I don't open what do you call this? A plant here, cement. Yes, so look at him. I think he's now making more back than myself. So you need to have that passion. I also spoke about one of the guys that I worked with, who is now the CEO of First Capital Bank. He's my mentor. As someone who wants to penetrate and grow in business, whether professionally or on a side hustle, you need a mentor. There's a statement that says, a mentor empowers a person to see possible future and believe it can be obtained. Remember when I started, I was talking about Mr. Mdawan. I went to him, I spoke to him, I used to nudge him to say, how did you get where you are? Now he's an executive, I always look up to him. In life, you need someone that you look up to. Whether you are a senior manager at your organization, you are running your gold business. You know, I spoke about the VUCA environment in Zim, right? Today, the rate is, you know, RBZ doesn't want this. It's XXX, and tomorrow it's XXX, right? Ukapu some Zim, you know, pera wakaibata. Right? So you need someone that will help you as a mentor to say, young man, this is how you run your finances in the business. If you are a professional, this is how you handle yourself. At times, in the professional space, vuma kuitiswa, vuma kupusa. But you can't do that when you don't have a mentor in business. So I just thought we need to understand those personal things before we speak directly on some of the business to say, how do you then grow in business and how do you then sustain yourself, whether professionally or as an entrepreneur? One of the side hustles that I did with one of my friends, you remember when the devolution came in, most of the city councils or rural district councils, they were now allowed to buy their own machines and then they do their developments in their own areas. So I identified an opportunity during those days. And it was so fortunate that I was part of the team that attended the Zimbabwe-China Business Forum in China some time back in 2019, 2020, somewhere there. I identified an opportunity in trucks. We started importing trucks to supply in those areas. It was quite a big business. At some point in time, I decided to say, you know what, let me leave the professional space. But when I looked at that and my vision and passion, I said, let me maintain the two. It was quite a journey. Even when we started the Omari project that you are starting to see across Zimbabwe, it was out of passion. I didn't go there to Old Mutual just to get a salary. I was full of passion and aggression. And today when you look, part of the business that is within my space is one of the biggest. That can be achieved without passion. But you need to understand a few things before I leave this space. What you need to be successful in business, whether you're a professional or you're a side hustler. The first thing is market research. If you read the book that was written by our father about talents, I like the first section of the book. It tells us that people need to understand how to do their businesses and also how to be entrepreneurs. To understand how you run the business from the profit and loss up to even creating the balance sheet. But you can't achieve that without understanding the market research. So as a business, as an individual, you need to understand your market. Of course, there are specific things that we can speak about, your SWOT analysis and all those stuff. Today, I'm not in the business of being too much deep around those things. But you need to understand the economy that you're operating in. You need to understand the people that you interact with. Who are your stakeholders in the business? Let me speak to the first vertical of the professional space. You also need market research before you move from one company to another. In the world of today, people are, especially young people, I used to do that. I need money. I need to move from one company to another so that I get more money. But it's more than that. Research tells us that you need to be in a company that protects your psychological mindset, right? You also need to be in a market or in a company that cares about your personal life. You are there, munarungovunza, the email that I sent yesterday. Even kukanzi kwafiwa. They will just leave you there. But even when you make that decision to move from one company to another, you need to look at those things. Do your market research. Who is going to be my leader? Who am I going to be interacting with? Who are the stakeholders for this company? Who are the shareholders of this company? It's very important. Let's move away from just looking at the salary. But you also need to do your strategic market research. Most side hustlers, they are losing the game because they don't understand the market. Munhu angonzwa kuti kurugadzirwa marodi munalo magundi. You are there. You don't have even the technical know-how to say, as an engineer, this is what's supposed to be done. Who do I need in my business? Of course, you might be having relations to say you can get that tender. But you need to understand your market. You need to understand what you're doing. I also recommend people to say, on a daily basis, make it a point. If you're here, please write this down. Make sure on a daily basis, you read a newspaper. Right? So that you understand what's happening in the market. Number 2, you need to understand what we call the art of execution. I would want to recommend a book called The 4DX Model. It looks at the vision that we've spoken about. It speaks about how do you achieve certain things in life from the lead measures and the lag measures. What is it that can derail you from achieving what you want to do as a business person? It's called the 4DX model. Also, I would recommend a book called Atomic Habits. It tells you to say every morning when you wake up, as you execute your things, the little things that you do on a daily basis, they will reach you to they will take you to a bigger picture of your life. So you need to look for those 2 books. And the third thing, I like what our father spoke about when he was speaking on working talents. There's a point where he talks about planning, action, and execution, as well as your target. You also need to be a person that takes action. And then the third pillar, which is going to be the last one for me, is strategic partnerships and strategic relationships. Let me speak more volume on this. The structure of our Zim economy, even the African economy, when you go to South Africa, I know most of the people, they do business with South Africans. I won't go in the industry without any knowledge of who is there. I know most people, it's just my Christians. Let me debunk this. Tinoenda nemunama totaka notunga, right? But at times, we need to be streetwise. I know person X does that, chakat, but andimzivi, right? But I know person A who knows person X. You need to be a person who is good at interacting with people so that you achieve what you want. Are we together? You might be here, and this point, if you were to take it even in the Bible, don't even look down upon anyone who is seated next to you, because you don't know the person that he knows. For me to be here, at times it wasn't right? Of course, there are prayers that will help you to get there, but do your part. Create necessary relationship in business. Mumwe unoped that time uri pa WhatsApp, right? But some, they are spending that $10 to buy food pagava, right? And say, Ningi from CBZ, come, let's meet, let's just have sadza. Right? We have that sadza. Apeza good, I know them African are good antara series. Apeza, you know what? We are actually working on this project, and I was actually thinking that if there is an opportunity that you can do, I know you're good at digital and all those stuff, so there's an opportunity around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In doing up at 10, I'll start to work on that. And that's how Zimbabweans are making money. And even in Africa, that's how people are making money. Even in the professional world, do you know what we do? I might be given a task to say, Blessmo, your department is growing. You need 3 people. One who will look at custom onboarding, someone who looks at reconciliation, someone who looks at finance. I will not just go post on social media to say I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because so what I do is I'll say, okay, fine, I know Benis. Hi, Benis. I'm looking for a person, Anita Chakat. This is what happens in the industry. And then they say, you know what, there's a guy at Bank ABC, you know, he's sharp, you know, we always talk to him. He does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. His character is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I post that row, no go align my qualities, you know. I'm not saying this is what I do. This is what organizations do. For the record of those who are online, they'll be like, organization going to do. But this is what happens. I'm speaking to the guys who are in the professional space. You don't know the person that you are sitting next to. As a business-minded person, a person with a clear mental picture, a person with a passion, you need to create necessary and strategic relationships. Never look down upon anyone. Make sure that anyone who is seated next to you get to understand what he's doing, because he is maybe your pillar to the next step of your life. So as a business person, please write this down. Start to create strategic and necessary relationships that are important to take you to the next stage. So ladies and gentlemen, I think this is the end of my presentation. Just a recap, we're looking at the life that I've walked. I didn't want to be too much of a professional person, but because of my brothers and sisters, I have to speak my life. From there, we spoke about what you need to do as a person. Vision, passion, right? And then we also spoke about what you need from a side hustle point of view, and even as a professional. To say, number 1, you need to master the art of execution, right? You also need to create strategic relationships as you run your business. So thank you very much.
Truly, that was beautiful. Can you give us a round of applause again as he sits down and we get ready now? We are about to also go back there as they are removing the chairs to also talk about, you may sit down, to also talk about some of the things that actually happen, which are not on the book, on the computer, that haven't been planned, yeah. So we're going to be asking some of those questions, and we're going to open the floor for questions after we have the panels. So I think as they're setting up, once they're done, we can go up. So also joining us today is, we like to call him Elder Victor, yeah. Is our very own. So I'll read his profile. Victor is the founder of Central Grid. Elder Victor is the founder of Central Grid, a renewable energy business propelled by its vision to power Africa's economic transformation sustainably. Customers include the national utility, ZESA, and some of the largest commercial and industrial companies in Zimbabwe. To meet their customers' needs, Central Grid is investing in solar, wind, hydro, and battery technologies. Elder Victor has a BSc from the London School of Economics and is a graduate of the Stanford Graduate School of Business. Saka we're just going to go up there and you can join us as we have the panel and open for discussion. And also, yes, you can join us too. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. Sema youth tinombo motivation here and there kuti tinatsoona kuti tozvifambisawo sei, because it's really hard to be a youth without guidance, and most of the people your age did it without guidance, so it can actually be easier for us if we get guidance from you. Okay, so I'll start off with the first question we have here, one of the most important, which is career guidance. I think it's it's where you start, where you decide what you want to do, who you want to become. You talked about passion, but you cannot have passion when you don't even have the idea of what you want to have passion for. So I think you can take that one for the first one of career guidance.
Good afternoon, everybody. Greetings to our parents, Bishop Mpanduki, our evangelist Mama, and all protocols are observed, our pastors Maka. We feel very honored to have you, to leave what you're doing just to be with us. Our brother here gave an amazing presentation. I think we need to give him another round of applause as well. What he has done is he has really set the tone and spoke about very important concepts: vision, passion, going deep into the business issues themselves. But the question is, what about your career? We are all at various stages of life. I run a renewable energy business, okay? And one thing I can tell you is, when I went to school, high school, when I went to university, just like him, I'm also a SADOP. I didn't go to 7 primary schools, but I went to 4 primary schools. I went to 2 high schools. I went to, 2 universities, 3 universities, things like that. All because of our parents' work, because we had to change. But when it comes to career, I want to say something about, something that applies to me. We are now doing renewable energy business. I can tell you that by the time I went to school, renewable energy as an industry did not exist at all. But it is now one of the largest industries in the world, employing millions of people. And each and every year in renewable energy, we are investing combined close to almost $500 billion globally. When it comes to renewable energy, it is now the largest source of electricity in the world. Since the foundation of the world in the last maybe 10, 15 years or so, there is what we call 1 terawatt hour, 1 terawatt of electricity that has been deployed from renewable energy at a cost of no less than $3 trillion. But not even 10, 15 years ago, that industry didn't exist. So if I had gone to university saying to myself, I want to do renewable energy, there was nothing like that. So to me, the foundation of any career guidance is this. One of those things which is always constant is the need to be curious, number one. Number two, one of those things which is always constant is the need to be able to understand problems and be able to solve them. That is constant. It doesn't matter what industry. Right now, Blissmo would have told you, we are now at the cusp or the takeoff of things like artificial intelligence. The digital economy is taking off in a big way. There are so many jobs that are coming up right now that don't even exist. In fact, in the next 10 years, the prediction is that perhaps maybe half of the jobs that are there right now will not be there in the future. So how do you prepare yourself for that volatility in the careers market? While we are in a volatile country, like he was explaining, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, you also in the job market looking at the future, you are facing exactly that. If you are an accountant today, perhaps maybe in the next 10 to 15 years, your job will be gone. If you are a lawyer, like our dear sister here, she knows this. With AI, your job, actually, AI can now solve legal problems 10 times better than a human being. Just last week, I posted something on LinkedIn. Nice written article, checked by experts. And then the artificial intelligence driver, which is on LinkedIn, said to me, would you like AI to rewrite this thing for you? I said, yes. In like a click of a button, the whole thing was rewritten, and I was like amazed. I said, wow, it's like better than any human being you can think of. So how do you prepare for such a career? I would contend that you need to have that idea of always being the person who solves problems. I would contend that as a young person, you must always be sort of filling up your toolkit. Imagine a toolbox, so that you are able to solve that problems. Quantitative methods, when you're going to school, do that maths, do that science, do that literature, do all those soft skills, hard skills. It doesn't matter what job will be available for you. You will be well prepared to deal with that. So, of course, let me just leave. It's very nice to talk about these things. You can keep on going, but I think you get the idea.
Thank you very much. I think just in addition, you touched on some of the things that I wanted to speak about. But I think before you spoke, I just write in my notebook to say disruption. I then highlighted it. There are some industries that are being disrupted, like what you were saying. And when you're identifying your career and where you want to go, you need to understand the level of disruption that's coming, right? Someone is busy, like what he's saying, saying, okay, fine, I'm focusing on this career. But when you look at what Elon Musk is working on, he's about to disrupt the market. Even when my undergrad degree was master's in, I did finance. I then did master's in finance and investment. I then did master's in fintech and digital banking. And now I'm finishing another one in strategy and innovation. But here is something that's interesting. When I was doing the finance, I went on the computer. Some of the things that I was being taught, the computer was actually doing it 5 more times faster than I could do it. And then I started to ask myself some critical questions to say, so what value am I adding? I'm not adding value. I then started to divert, focusing on the digital, because he's speaking about AI. AI digital. We are talking about ChatGPT. At times, I'm not advising you not to attend lectures because I'll be busy. But if I go on ChatGPT, and then I'm not encouraging you to do that. But I'm just saying these are some of the things that are actually disrupting the market. And you are working with a teacher, right? Face-to-face teacher, like Kumusha and all those stuff, right? You need to be careful with some of those things. Make sure, of course, it's a good profession, not to say it's a bad profession, but find ways to say, how do I leverage on technology as it is coming to disrupt my market? So if you're identifying a career, you need to understand the level of disruption that's coming in the market. And how do you identify the level of disruption? You need to be a person who's widely read on your area of specification. One. Number two, you need a mentor. I will repeat, you need a mentor. Thank you.
Truly, that's beautiful, and we are learning a lot. I was also about to get to the AI, the artificial intelligence. It's truly disrupting a lot. Everywhere you go, it's AI. We can even have these panelists with your face, Elder Victor, with your face, yeah, and it would have said something like what you've just said. But you know what? I'll just put you on the spot here. We never know where this might go. I'll ask you to give me 2 opportunities that you think are going to grow in the financial technology. Like I know my brother Tinashe, there is somewhere there going into the financial industry. So if you would give him just at least 2 fields to look at, and then Elder Victor, you also give us at least 2 fields in the energy field where one can focus in. We have engineers in here, we have lawyers, we have everyone. So just give us any 2 prospective fields from the finance department.
From the finance department, hard cash is being disrupted. Have you looked at the RBZ statistics? They say 95% of the transactions that happen on a daily basis, they happen through mobile phone. Only 5% is cash, right? And you need to start to ask yourself questions to say, where is my career in finance positioned? There's a lot of opportunity around the digital space, the mobile money, right? Currently, you can build a mobile money business. Look at Zimbabwe, there's MyCash. We're talking about Omari, we're talking about EcoCash. Mukuru is coming in, it started off as a remittance business. Currently, it's now a mobile money business. They're building a card. You know, there is now a card that you can use here in Zimbabwe, and that same Visa card, you can use it anywhere else across the world. There's no need for cash. But you'll be asking yourself to say, if I'm in Zambia, I've loaded my US dollars here, how come I'm still using my card? That's the level of disruption. Remember, we used to send money in a bus, right? And those bus drivers, someone wished to be a bus driver. To say, from one point to another. Remember, there used to be a postman. I read the Bero Darat Chakura, where I know it's a Bero Pampa. But where is he? Disrupted. So there is an opportunity around the digital financial services. Also, there is an opportunity around e-commerce. Everything that's now happening, it's now happening on the digital technology. I've got a picture that I took when I was seated with my wife. I will read it to you, of things that happens on the internet in just 60 seconds. Do you know in just 60 seconds on the internet, they say more than 10,000 people, they get a job on internet, right? When you look at the e-commerce point of view, if you look at Netflix, right? Look at the level of revenue that they are getting, leveraging on e-commerce. So on the e-commerce front, there's an opportunity for you to reach places where you can't be. You might be driving your business here in Zimbabwe, a truck shop, right? You can do it, but leverage on the power of technology. Put it online, see how many people are seeing your product. Some of the people, they're saying, I don't need to use a property in town. I can be home publishing my products to say, oh, look, I'm selling my jeans and all those stuff, but people can actually come to you. These are some of the things that we can do. Let's leverage on the power of technology. Forgive me, I'm trying to be a bit more on the top side in terms of how I'm speaking the language on e-commerce. But we can go deeper to say, how do you leverage on the deeper part of e-commerce? So for everyone to understand, I think you need to understand that you can leverage on e-commerce, reach the markets where you can be, so that you drive your sales, you drive your business, and expand quickly.
Truly, that's beautiful. I hope you learned something tonight there. Okay, so Elder Victor will go to the field of energy. Where do you think we can invest in and come to pitch in?
Yes. In the energy space, the key global problem that we are facing is carbonization. Everybody understands scientifically, we know that the planet is warming up. and we need to contain that temperature rise, within about 2.5 degrees Celsius since industrialization by 2050. That is the global agenda. And the way to do that is through the use of renewable energy technologies. By renewable, we mean non-carbon emitting technologies, not gas, not like coal-fired power plants, but things like solar, wind, biomass, etc., because they're also renewables. Hydro. The opportunity space, just on this African continent, we've got a population of about 1.3, 1.4 billion people, of which about 700 million people in Africa, in our continent here, do not have access to electricity in their homes. So we're looking at more than half of the Africans born since Adam and Eve up to now, they've never seen electricity in their homes. That is where the opportunity is. And we need to bring them out of that energy poverty using the renewable technologies. For that to happen, we need to be investing no less than $100 billion per year just to try to catch up. We are barely doing about $20 billion. So there's a gap now of almost about $80 billion to be able to take all those Africans out of that energy poverty. You may say, well, that's Africa. In Zimbabwe here, we have got a population of about 15 million, of which our electrification is about 80% in towns, people with access to electricity, and in the rural areas, it's about 15%. On average, almost about 45% of our people have access to electricity. More than half of this country do not have access to electricity. I know it may surprise you because you think, oh, everybody must have electricity. We don't have electricity. You can see, the power cards and things like that. We need to be able to invest in that infrastructure. How do we do that? This is what we're talking about. We need all sorts of skills to be able to do that. To work in renewables, you don't necessarily just have to be an engineer. We need people with legal minds, we need environment, we need finance, we need admin, we need engineers. We simply need problem solvers. I can take this opportunity to invite you all to the renewable space. Believe me, all of us here will find space there, and there's more than enough. Thank you very much.
You heard it for yourself. There's more than enough space for you in the renewable field of energy. So on the spot here, I just received a suggestion. Kuti, we can only talk about this, but we also have a guest who's a doctor in the house, Dr. Gwejere. So this question goes out to you. What can we get in the field of medicine? Tinokwanisa kuita sei? Tine ma-opportunities api? Tine risk yekuti ma-robotics ndo achange achiuya achizoita ma-operations edu zvatachiita. Toita sei? Toenda kupi kwacho?
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for this opportunity. So if you're in the medical field, you can also think of something that you can do. You can't just be going to the hospital every day and just getting one basic salary. Like recently I thought of an idea that I can put my work, and I can create a website, put my work, put my details, and then people can just go to the website, make an appointment, tell me their symptoms. Okay, today I'm feeling this, this, and that. And then I personally go to their place and make a home visit. Because some people are not able to come to the hospital for a lot of reasons. So you can always think of something in your space to do. Yeah.
So truly think of something in your space to do. If you're a farmer, some people can't come to your farm. You have to get to them because of their personal reasons. So whatever field you are in, just think of something in your place to do. So moving on to the next question. We have talked about ideas. We have talked about going to the world of renewable. But the issue with us, the youth, is the question keeps on coming and coming back. But we need your advice. Fundraising. Tanzwa takatanga ne 1 bapiro and 10,000 and stuff like that. But tell us, a proper resolution on how one can fundraise something to become something great.
Thank you very much. At this point, I will use my hardcore finance knowledge, but of course, leveraging on some of the things that we're seeing in the market. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. Yesterday, I was looking at a report, the last report that was written by RBZ on the microfinance industry. The microfinance industry now has got 179 players. All these players, they've got specific businesses that they focus on funding, right? And when you look at that, they're trying to drive their business, but of course, with a strategic focus on small to medium enterprises. But what then remains important to an individual who wants to drive an idea is you need to identify a proper financial institution that can help you. I know banks might be difficult for you, not to say I'm saying don't go to banks, but if you look at the microfinance institutions, they're inviting individuals at a personal level. You go, they've got all the time to listen to your problems. Even because we want business and we are seeing potential in your business, they can just put, let's say, 1,000. But here is what happens with our world of today youth. My microfinance, they charge a lot of interest, right? What that means is if you take that debt and you don't put it in a profitable use, unochema nezvikwereti. Todzoka ku nezvinogara zviparizwa namubaguti panyaya yezvikwereti. So you need to be careful, but at the same time, microfinance institutions, currently when you look at even the RBZ, it's so aggressive on financial inclusion and even accessing loans out of that. That's one side. The other side, we have got what we call private equity investors. The problem now with these ones is, of course, they are not that public, right? Because they can silently invest in your business. They'll say, okay, fine, Blessmore, we value your business. Your skills, when you look at our valuation matrix, it's worth about 10,000, right? And then they look at what you have done today and say, okay, fine, your business is worth about 80,000. In total, that's 100,000, right? And then they say, okay, I'm going to give you 50,000. When they give you that 50,000, it means they now have 50% share ownership in your business. So these are some of the things that are happening under the carpet. Unlike, those companies that go on Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, you can publicly see them, right? But these private equity investors, or some they call them venture capital investors, these guys, they come to help you under the carpet. I'll tell you, for example, there's Takura Capital in Zim, I think it's based in Avenues there. Those guys, they're so aggressive on profitable, bankable projects. If you are a woman, Women's Bank is actually looking for projects for ladies to support. And the beauty about it, I see, not to say I'm exposing here, I see my Marikanda, she's one of our elders. The beauty about Cheche Baba Guti, you can go to Maubra, Westgate, wapedza service, ongo wadonza pa site. Takuenda kuma relations ataricha tauraya. How do I get funding? I've got this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 project. She'll be there to assist you. But it's just that tinenge tangoteerera kuti ne one rice, right? And then you think kuti, if I just start with anything that I have home, I'll be able to scale. So these companies that I'm talking about, one, they will help you to monitor even your project as you be scaling. To say we gave you your money, you're at point 0. Our next focus is to see you grow because we want our money back and you also have to perform to get our money back. So it will give you pressure in two sides to retain that money and to meet their expectation as investors. So look at those private equity investors. To some of you who would want some of the linkages to those guys, not to say I will be guaranteeing you that you'll be getting that money, but to assist you will also get you to meet some of those guys to say, you can talk to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They'll help you to scale up your idea and your business.
Okay, before you go there, I like to put people on the spot. Can you just give us just a bit of them, the ones which are on top of your head? Now I'm thinking of Takura Capital. I've heard about it. I'm going to be looking for it when I'm passing through the avenues. You never know who gets to hear about Takura Capital and goes there, and tomorrow they're growing a multi-million, billion business in Africa.
All right, from a private equity investment, I think that's Takura Capital. There is also, but some of those names you don't really know them. There is a BeepFix that's being run by a guy who is driving. He's also part of the team that's doing the Loma Gundi project. So what he does is excess of his income that he gets from the project that he does, he always assists some small businesses. And then he has set a team that's on the ground to say, okay, fine, I've given Blessmore 1,000. Those guys, they'll be monitoring what you're doing up until they get their 1,000 back, right? So these are some of the guys that you can talk to. If you look at the microfinance space, I'm happy to even advise people to even go to such businesses as Empower Bank. These are businesses that have been strategically positioned by the government to assist the youth, right? And we've got a couple of guys that are there and that are leveraging on that funding. Make it a point to read the newspaper on a daily basis. This is where these things are positioned. But if we spend most of our time on WhatsApp and all those things, we might be skipped like these ones. There's Empower Bank. I've spoken about 2 ladies. There's Women's Bank. Some businesses, they're actually running a promotion. I think it was for March, the Women's Month. They're actually supporting businesses, including your FMC Capital. So those are some of the businesses that you need to leverage on.
Elder Victor, would you like to add on the fundraising? Okay.
Thank you. I'm not much of an expert on fundraising, particularly for, call it the small to medium enterprises. My expertise in fundraising is for the large infrastructure businesses. So throughout my career, I've worked on projects that have raised more than like $6 billion of actual money, debt and equity. And also even in our business, we've now raised more than $100 million, some of it from Old Mutual, from local pension funds, etc., etc. It's nice to talk about how much money we've raised. It's nice to talk about the growth in balance sheet, you know what I mean? But one thing I've noticed, it all starts at the very first thing you must do. What is your product, okay? And with that product, who are you selling it to? Has it been accepted by a segment of the market out of the total large market that you have? And we call that product market fit. It means product yo yagamuchirwa na somebody. Panotovaneka mukachikamu business ke market kakuta say karukutenga your product. And then once you've been successful with that segment of the market, then you go into another segment of the market and you keep on growing. For you to now really, really grow, that's what my brother called scaling. That's where investors come in. But they never really come in, too early. So when you are sort of like starting your product, you're building a product, etc., part of the fundraising that he's mentioning, it's even, friends and family, what we call friends and family. Among ourselves here, we can finance our businesses because almost all of us sitting here, we probably have got businesses which are probably at the product stage, still trying to meet what we call product market fit. Maybe some of us are still starting, okay? Believe me, not many of us here are candidates for Takura Capital. Takura would be looking at business which are thriving, they're like really growing, and my private equity and then they're now taking you to scale to next heights. Perhaps maybe you are already a business with revenues of like about $1 million a year. Not many of us are there. That's where that kind of capital comes in. Institutional investors, an Old Mutual, an NASA, my pension funds, my banks. But in the meanwhile, for most of us, we still have got our products and we are starting. A lot of it is like, friends and family, and he has already given us warning Yambiro. You could also, try to avoid, things like, credit finance, microfinance, zvimbazoka zvya unogona kurohwa mari imwe yokuti business robva ratowira pasi. Try to avoid that. If you take that money, quickly be honest about it, pay back, and then you keep on growing your business. So it's a very wide subject. I think, this is just a primer. What is important is that after, if you've got a business and you think you need financing, sometimes you actually don't even need financing. You need certain knowledge. You can talk to, our brother like, Blessmore. They will then, advise you at the stage of business where you are and the kind of financing that you may need and the kind of financiers that will be able to support you. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's truly beautiful. That is also one. The project yangu 3 billion. Okay, so here we've launched career guidance and we have gone to fundraising, and now we were talking about the product. Product. And this is a hard part for us, most Christians in business, and I've suffered a lot from it. Twitter say corruption and being a Christian. And specifically, for you to get your tender awarded, unofanosiya something. You're saying vumakupusiswa nekuitiswa. I want you to also then explain on that. Twitter say how do we work around that? And it's something that's not going great around.
Yeah, it's a tricky question. It's a tricky one, and of course it's something that's happening not only in Zimbabwe, but even across the world. There are people that are sitting on specific desks, and that's how they're surviving, right? You see a person is receiving an average salary of $600, but the kind of car that he drives is more than, the 600 that he receives. Because and the $1 million question now that you have posed is to say, how do we try and manage that? That's why I said it's a tricky question, because in one way or the other, people are actually doing that. But what then remains very important is the level of history that you create when you're building your business. If you look at, for example, we are in some established corporate space, right? We have got certain companies that we put at what we call a suppliers list, right? It's based on what you have done before for us to put you there. Remember, I recommended a book called Atomic Habits, right? The little things that you are doing now, 2 or 3 people are seeing. Is because you want to skip certain stages of your growth phase so that you quickly scale, right? But if you want to do away with Jana Zinish, you know what? At elementary level, even no one is seeing you. Do quality and good things. Avoid shortcuts. People, they will be seeing you. You unopindira pana papa triple CI. Any unopindira ku Baines. I come here, maybe Rutengesa something outside. I'll see you, right? What will happen next time when I go? You know what? I saw someone who sells my book. I got to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the guys are discussing about having someone that supplies my books. Definitely, I'll say, okay, fine. There's a person that I saw. I think he does a great job, right? So the medicine to that is to do great things at elementary level. Through Atomic Habits, the small things that you do, so that you leverage on that. We are not going to debunk Nyaye Zino. It's happening in Zim, right? In one way or the other, probably 50% who are here, they do that. 10 darabuda, ponzi panobuda Maria Kato, I need 20% out of that. Because you want business, you can quickly do that. But if it's difficult for you, you can't do that, as a Christian, right? From an Atomic Habit, start, of course, at that level. But when you do your things, do perfectly. Be honest in whatever you do. Our problem with our world of today, entrepreneur, he promises you that I'm going to deliver this thing tomorrow morning. Following day, I ask you to dial phone online and update my status. This is how we kill our businesses. Tega. So I'm advising you to say, of course, to avoid Zino. Zino is there. Make sure that at atomic level, please make sure you do your things proper. Someone is watching. Relationships will get you there. Not to say you need to budisaka something, but do your things perfectly and you'll get there. don't know if you've got anything to add.
I would like to add something. Thank you. For us, when it comes to the issue of bribes and corruption, etc., as a business, right from inception, we took a decision. We said, number one, we cannot afford to pay bribes. Yeah, we just didn't have the money. So we took a decision and we said, we don't have the money to pay bribes. That was our number one issue. And then the number two issue was, we don't want to pay bribes. So there were two issues. We don't want to pay bribes, and number two, we don't even have the money to pay bribes. So it has always been our guiding principle that, right now maybe we can afford to pay bribes, but the guiding principle, we don't pay bribes, it's still driving us. You have to make a decision right from inception. And believe me, the temptation to do that is there. Because you probably would see things could actually move quicker. But you must make that decision upfront. We are not going to pay bribes. When in our business, when you're doing renewable energy, one of the first things that you must get is like land, large tracts of land. It's so difficult to find land. You know what I mean? It's so difficult. You'll be tempted almost to try to, but we are happy to wait 2 years just waiting for that. We are happy to wait for 18 months for licenses and permits until things are done. We never induce, decisions by paying bribes. It's a decision that we've made. It costs us sometimes, but that's just who we are. So the point is that you just have to decide, and you stick to that decision. If you really want to be the person who pays bribes, fine, but you can also decide, we don't do this. And it can be painful. It can hurt you. We've had examples, border. It's because we import a lot of equipment all the time by my border. And people will just delay things, just so that you yourself can sort of initiate it and say, my brother, Twitter say. You have to make the decision. So it's entirely up to you. But we took the decision that we don't pay bribes, and that's it. Thank you.
Oh, that's truly beautiful. Okay, there's a question. Tinashe.
Thank you so much for the amazing answers and the amazing presentations. I just wanted to add maybe two things to the Zino issue. First thing, add value to yourself. Whatever it is that you're doing, do it with so much excellence. Coming back, or just adding to what he said about at the atomic level, do your best. Kana dziri nzungu dzauri kutengesa package in such a way kuti vanhu vanokutsvaga palunch kuti dzanhingi toda dzanhingi, something like that. So if you add value to yourself, if it's an area of discipline, dzidza kusvika wakunzi doctor of that thing. So much, because what people pay for is not just, or who you are or your Zino. Sometimes you get to a place where people need to pay you for your value, for what you bring, what you really bring on the table. Ipapo tetadarika stage yezino yekunzwisisa kuti chero ukabhadhara zino and you don't produce, people will want, results. So add value to yourself. Let's be in the habit of developing ourselves. Don't be the same person you were 10 years ago or 3 years ago, especially as young people like this. That's why our father always encouraged us to go to school. Number two, as a believer, we have an extra ammunition that is called the favor of God, which we need to always pray for, the mercy and favor of God, which out of 3 people, line ranga richitangira uko, kunongovhurwa rimwe doro uko kunzi pinda, takutangira kunoku, line rakutangira kuno, iwanga uri number 60 kumusiko uko, the favor of God, which no man can hinder or stop. Where you ask yourself, you get to places and you ask yourself, how did I get here? The favor of God. That adds no sorrow with it. Sometimes Zino, you can do the Zino thing, but umamusi, you misunderstand with the Zino person and they can pull you down with them. So I want to encourage, let's seek the favor of God, the favor of God, the favor of God.
Thank you so much, Mama Day. Okay, so we are truly learning a lot. So the next one, oh, okay, we have another one. Sorry? Oh, I think we're going to open this floor for, is it a question or is addition? Okay. Okay, so let's get the mic there.
Okay. My question is, so companies now, they are the gift giving policy, probably under corporate governance. Maybe someone is just appreciating how you have done your work. So an instance now comes when a supplier just appreciates you for probably catalyzing the process of them getting a business. So we want to understand, if someone appreciates me for doing my good job, is it a bribe, or maybe they are just appreciating me for doing what is right? Because maybe you are good.
You used a fancy word, catalyzing. Don't get a process step fast.
Yes, so I want to understand if it's a bribe. Maybe next time when we are going to give him if they want a business again, they are going to just say, no, Taona, last time you did this, maybe I'll cut you, not cut you, I'll appreciate you with maybe 1,000.
Thank you, Chairman. Typically, in well-structured organizations, there are policies, that govern, gifts, receiving gifts. Any gift, usually, $25, for example, is got to be declared or rejected and sent back. So a bottle of wine, a diary, a pen, chocolates, whatever, it's fine, it's declared in the register. But kana wakupiwa motor, for example, kana wakupiwa $1,000. In well-run companies, that is absolutely not tolerated at all. We don't even receive it. You can declare it, but we don't even receive it. You must take it back. So that's actually how it happens. Again, to avoid even the appearance of bribing. It may not necessarily be a bribe, but the appearance of it is bad enough. Again, we come back to that decision. If you are taking a company taking bribes, please go ahead. But if you are not, you just must actually be upfront and say, we in this organization, Mama said it, we are children of God. It's incompatible with children of God who are in the kingdom of God to be taking bribes. As far as we're concerned, as God-fearing people, we do not do bribes. It's a decision. And like I said, it may even cost you. It may harm you. It may delay you. Because you are also in the world. But you have to decide. And as a well-run organization, you must always have policies, to do with gifts and what you give, and many other policies, of course. Thank you.
Okay, that's truly great. Here now we saw the zinoracho reportings, kunevano receive mazino, nevanopa mazino. So I hope you guys learned a lot there. Now coming to conclusion of our discussion, personally, I want to get into construction. I have a landscaping company. I'll just put it here since I'm already here. We're working very well around with big brands around and around. But my question is this one is directed to you, Dr. Victor. How did you then get the chance to work with a large firm like ZESA and supply the national grid with electricity? What were the processes, and what are the stages you go through in acquiring a tender or something like that? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Personally, I've worked in the energy industry practically my whole life. From leaving university, that's all I did. Working in an investment bank, doing energy projects across, with Africa coverage all over the continent. So I also came very much prepared, in that space. So preparation is very important. But when it comes to something like renewable energy in Zimbabwe, the industry is open. The government has opened it up to the private sector. That means you and I can actually go and propose and say, I want to go into this space. There are licenses. You've got to apply for a license. First of all, like I mentioned, like any renewable energy project, you must find land, you must do feasibility studies, you must then apply for licenses and permits. You must then, negotiate all the contracts with your customers like ZESA. You must fundraise, costs a lot of money. You must go into construction, operations, maintenance, etc., etc. So at every stage, it requires a lot of money, a lot of resources, a lot of skilled people. So like any business, whether it is renewable energy, whether it is construction, it really takes a lot of knowledge and resources. My advice to anybody is always when you are starting, because it's so difficult, do not set the bar too high for yourself. Kana uchita high jump, autangire kuisa bar pa 2 meters. Unotangira pa zasi panapa, handiti? Do the same in any business, whether you're doing construction, whether you're doing renewable energy. Make it easy. Your first step, make sure it is easy. Because it's always very difficult. So make sure your first step, you make it easy for yourself. Don't go out there and say, I'm raising $50 million. No. It never happens like that, no matter how much faith you have. Baba, our father, he taught us, even the blessings of God are always step by step. So what do? Do not make your first step the hardest. Always make it if you can reduce the bar as much as you can. Because it's all about getting into business, and then from there on you can always scale. In fact, that is actually how the kingdom of God is described. Whenever the Lord taught about the kingdom of God, he always said the kingdom of God is like a what? Like a seed planted in the ground, and it always grows. Night and day, whether you are sleeping, you don't know how, but it's growing. The kingdom of God is like a mustard seed planted, and then it grows. It's the same as a business, because the seed itself has got everything in itself to be able to be self-propagating as long as the conditions are right. It's the same with your business. Start with a product, make it as small as possible, get a segment of the market, make sure that it is working at that small segment of the market. Once it is working, then the next issue is what? Scaling it and growing. Exactly how it works, self-propagating. But don't make the first step the hardest. Make it as easy as you can for yourself. Thank you very much.
We truly are learning a lot. So this one is the last part as we are concluding, like I said the last time. Okay, this one is directed to you, Mr. Blessmore. You talked about mentorship. Now we have a product, now we are funded, and with all the aspects, we now have the money. But the most important thing, I was reading a book by Strive Masiwa, Raising a Multi-Billion-Dollar Business in Africa. He talked about financial literacy. So let's just get some stuff on the mentorship. Where do we get the mentor to give us these ideas and knowledge? Or what? Take us on that.
Thank you very much. I think you are raising a very important question. To me, it's a very serious question and a problem to us and most of the people that I always interact with. They'll start to see a light after they have got a mentor. So here is how you identify a mentor. Remember, we spoke about the vision, right? To say it's a clear mental picture of who you want to be, right? It's kind of like projecting yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now. When you look at yourself 10 years from now, you then say, in the world, this is the world of tomorrow, right? The vision. In the world of today, who is at a position that I want to be 10 years from now, currently, right? The beauty about it is, muchechi kamuno, ndikaenda kuna vagwenjeri nekunyara kuti tiri muchechi kuti I want you to be my mentor. I will accept, right? Because ndoendawo kuzayoja. But ukaya tiri professional space, but tinenge tichingo samkomanijo, tichingo pichuka. When you come to me, I'll be busy. And I'm like, oh no, it's okay, this is my number. And when you say hi, I don't respond. Right? So what's important is you need to identify someone who is approachable. And also, when you go there and tell your story, make sure you're honest about yourself. Kune vamwe vanouya kumamento akuda kutondidzidzisa inini. You know, unofanongo nemweya wekuda kutichwa. And also be as close as possible to your mentor. So what you need to do is project yourself. What project yourself 10 years, this is what I want to be. You look for someone in the world of today who is where you want to be, right? And then you identify that person as a mentor. Also do some research for that person. Because kune vamwe vakanaka vari muno. But wazoenda kunzona, eish, pakaipa. Be very careful about that. And also once you have a mentor, also have a conversation around how often do you meet. Make sure you nudge him as many times as possible so that you extract value out of that person. Even our pastors, they can be our mentor because they have got a 360-degree view of life. From Inina might be smart on the business side, but but these people, they've got a defense mechanism on the Christian spiritual life. Some of our pastors, vakauya kubasa, but varichi, my business leaders, leverage on them and take advantage of that. Thank
you. Yeah, just a little input. Mentorship, you see, because you think you are young. I've got my own mentors. I've got my own business coaches. And some of our coaches, we even pay money. This year we are in a coaching program coaching me as a business leader. And we are paying thousands and thousands of dollars for those coaches. We have learned kuti I'm not my CEO of some of the largest companies in the world. When Steve Jobs, they all have got my mentors and my coaches. Today, there is no successful business leader in the world that you know without a mentor, without a coach. It applies the same thing, just like Mukaona. Let's take the example of, let's say, a football team. Some of the greatest footballers that you see in the world. Anybody give me a name of some of the top footballers? Ronaldo, Messi. You never see him just playing on his own. Nijo, does Ronaldo not have a coach? But he's one of the best footballers in the world. He still needs a coach. What about the Manchester City players like who is in Manchester City? Haaland. You think what a sharpshooter, what a striker. But Haaland still depends on mentors and coaches. It is the same thing as a business leader. It is the same thing at whatever stage of life. Never stop learning and also getting mentored and coached. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was truly a beautiful panel. Very powerful. We got to learn a lot. Nasi andina kuona muno kana wana akarara. Pane vandoziva vachitorara but you know we didn't get that. So I'm going to ask the facilitators. Do we have time for any 2 questions from the audience? Do you have a burning question? Going once, going twice? I was doing that so that I could decline it. But that's the last question. Just give us that one, then we close off the floor.
Good afternoon. I just want to ask, we were talking about passion, about your product. What if in the beginning, maybe you have so much passion about what you're selling, and then down the line you have trouble selling your product and you lose passion? Does that mean you have the wrong product, or is there a way to get your passion back?
right.
I think we can get all the questions once. That's the last one. Then we cover it up. Then we close off. Due to the time running out drastically, my boss there is already doing this to a face. I might get fired.
Okay. My question is, Kuti, sometimes, I don't want to use the word to women, when you go and you ask for money, whether microfinance, bank, whatever, panaipa kunzi collateral, ina andina collateral, ndina mentor wangu Elder Victor, wonditi collateral. Panofambiswa say, but nditori ne passion echinhu chandoda kuita, ene ndotonyatsoziva chinhu ichi chinobuda ndikachita mari inotouya, but handina collateral. Bank is saying I should have a collateral.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just speak to. He said both. I'll try. On the dying passion, one thing that happens with passion is it will never be, when you start to execute or to practice your passion, it's not a straight through process. If you look at many books, they talk about the ups and downs of life. Even in life, you know, opora, osumuka, orwara. That's like passion, right? It's not straightforward. So when you see your passion dying at times, for me, some other books, they write that that's the right passion. When you see it straight, this is the end of the tunnel, it's straight like that, this is a problem. So at times, it's just be aggressive about what you want to do, because you know the end of the tunnel. Even when you read the book about the story of Strive Masiwa, he had passion in the telecoms and making lives better for Africans and even Zimbabweans. But if you read the elementary level of his business, he faced a lot of challenges. But did he give up? No. If you were to ask Nkoma Victor here, did he give up? But he's still here. Even in our business, so many times, network, but money business, but we kept on pushing. So never get tired. Just remain aggressive. And then about the issue to do with collateral. Look, this is the basic things about banks, right? Banks, they've got their own shareholders. If I am working for a bank as a manager, my role is to protect my shareholders' value. And I'm going to marry because I know you have to produce something. Chekuti, should I fail to pay, I'll give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the problem is, Mumato in an iPhone 14 Pro Max, right? Or 15 Pro Max, and you're saying you don't have collateral. You've got things that you already have, right? You can even start from there. Some microfinance, you know what, we can even leverage on the mobile phone that you have. An iPhone 15 Pro Max goes for about 1,000. Or going to microfinance, you are looking for $500. Really? So some of the things is look at what you have. But my brother Victor said a very important point to say at elementary level, let's leverage on friends and family. These people, they will help us to scale it, because the idea is still at its infant stage. Kutu believe is a moon, I'm going to make $1 million, right? You see? But what you do is, if you come to someone, you understand your behavior, how you do it, this part of funding that's happening. But it's just kungoti Maria tendera yenda pana A B pa ino uya ndodzorera yenda P ndodzorera. You are not making productive use of that money. So what I'm saying on the collateral, if your idea is still at infant stage, please try to leverage on friends, family, even Marounds. People are comfortable to do that, but I also advise people don't get in around Dora, and then but you are not what making maximum utilization of that money. So I think that's all I can say.
And truly, ladies and gentlemen, we can give a round of applause to the whole panelists. This was the church's business tycoon meeting and panel. Another round of applause, and thank you so much for joining us today. Likewise. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we close this business tycoon meeting, we can even call it that, and we leave the time to the MC. Thank you.